Welcome to the Guitar Show. In this video we're going to be looking at the guitars of B.B. King. B.B. King was born on September the 16th, 1925. King's first guitar was given to him by his mother's first cousin in 1931. It was actually the first guitar he ever played. He would have been 5 or 6 years old when he first picked the guitar up. His cousin was actually blues guitar player Booker White. At the time he received the guitar, he was still living on the Belle Claire cotton plantation where his parents were sharecroppers. The 1920s elongated parlour guitar can be seen here with 3 original gut strings. In approximately 1937, B.B. King was a hard-working teenager of 12 years old and had begun saving his money from working in the fields. His guitar was a Little Red Stella that he paid the price of $15 to acquire, a full month's work at the time, which he later felt was more than the student model guitar was worth. An interesting point was that the Stella guitar was also the guitar that Blind Lemon Jefferson played, who was one of B.B. King's early guitar idols. It had a 25-inch scale neck, and the guitar featured 12 frets and a simple dock position markers, and a flat fretboard. These models were generally quite loud and cheaper than the more expensive metal-bodied National guitars of the same time period. B.B. King recounts that his Stella guitar was later stolen from the cabin he lived in on the Mississippi plantation, whilst he was out working in the fields, and it was several years before he bought a replacement guitar. Although details are sketchy about B.B. King's second guitar, that he purchased for $20 so he could accompany the famous St. John Gospel Singers gospel band. Very little is known about this guitar except for one photo with the entire band from the 1940s and a mention in King's autobiography that he wrote with David Ritz. In an old surviving photo, he appears to be holding a vintage resonator style guitar. Closer inspection, the guitar pictured could be a Regal or Dobro, since at the time many of the instrument manufacturers shared parts. Either way, this was just an in-between instrument, as he would soon move on to electrifying his sound to reach more listeners. The Gibson L30 was a guitar that B.B. King started his music career on. This guitar was referred to as the original Lucille. It was produced between 1935 and 1943. B.B. King's guitar was fitted with a Diamond pickup. B.B. King says about this guitar, "I'm very crazy about Lucille. Lucille took me from the plantation." Of course, as we know, Lucille wasn't a guitar, not one guitar anyway. But the first guitar to bear the name was this Gibson L30 archtop, which B.B. King bought for $30. The guitar's story is very particular. In 1949, a young B.B. King was playing in a bar in Twist, Arkansas. In the dead of winter and lacking anything better, the building was heated with a large drum filled with burning kerosene. B.B. King recalled that 2 patrons of the bar got into a fight over a woman. The drum was knocked over, and in short order the bar was ablaze. B.B. King managed to make it out in one piece, but realising he'd left his guitar inside, he dashed back to retrieve it, just making it out in time as a wooden building collapsed in flames around him. In the aftermath, King learned that the name of the woman who sparked the fight was Lucille, so he decided to christen his guitar likewise, to remind me never to do a thing like that again. The Gibson L30 was a budget model. The L30 was small-bodied, non-cutaway, with a flat back. And the L30 featured a simple trapeze tailpiece and a pickguard, an adjustable bridge, single binding front and back, and dot fingerboard markers. The early examples were finished in black, but later L30s had dark mahogany sides, back and neck, with a dark sunburst top. The model was discontinued in 1943. Although B.B. King never met the woman in person, he named all of his consecutive guitars after her. While travelling through Buffalo to visit a friend, he left his guitar in the trunk of his Oldsmobile, and unknown to King at the time, the same key would fit most General Motors cars that year. Not only was Lucille stolen, but also his amplifier and the battery to his car. B.B. King has often said he offered $5,000 reward and all the way up to $10,000 for the guitar's return, but no one ever did collect the reward. In this photo here we can see B.B. King with an ES-125 guitar. In 1951, King had his major hit with a cover of Lowell Fulsom's 3 O'Clock Blues. By this time, B.B. King was playing an ES-125 with a single P90 pickup and no cutaway. It featured a bound top and back, tortoiseshell pickguard, single bound top and back, and dot neck inlays. 3 O'Clock Blues was a slow burning 12 bar that set the template for B.B. King's inimitable style. B.B. King said in Guitarist June 2006 magazine, "I had a Telecaster when they first came out, maybe about 1953. The word had it that Fender gave Wes Montgomery one, and also his brother Monk Montgomery, who was one hell of a bass player. So I wanted Fender to give me one because I thought I was pretty good too. The people there wouldn't, so I bought mine. They've haunted me with that photograph ever since. I like the Telecaster, but I had to take the bridge cover off so that I could cut the strings like I wanted. It's the same thing as you get with a piano, using the dampening pedals when you want to shut the sound off. My problem was that when I played, this flat part of my hand would just get eaten up by the strings. My fingers used to bleed sometimes, so I like to get the strings close to the neck. I've never had calluses like some guys. I also didn't like the fact that there was no rod through the neck, and after a while it started to bow. And as you can see in the photo, King is playing a single pickup Fender Esquire guitar. When he was asked about this, he says, "That was one of the first ones that came out." Making use of the toggle switch and the tone port, King achieved a warm mid-range honk. B.B. King played the Esquire on many of the recordings made on the RPM label, such as 3 O'Clock Blues and Jump For You Baby. And this explains why his tone was rather different compared to his later work in the 60s and 70s. Okay guys, so after the Fender Esquire, in the mid-50s we can see B.B. King here with a maple neck Strat. And this Strat is obviously from the mid-50s. And my guess is that this guitar had a Bakelite scratch plate, which would date it around 1954 or 1955. After Mr. King's brief adventure with Fender guitars, he returned to Gibson's. As King's career flourished, he got a fancier guitar. Launched in 1949, the ES5 was then one of Gibson's flashiest and sonically more versatile models. It had 3 P90 pickups, and King's was the early version without the complex switching of the 1955 to 1960 updates. The ES5 came in blonde and sunburst, but BB's was blonde, with a trio of volume pots and a black pickguard. The ES5 was discontinued in 1960, and in this great photo we can see Mr. King playing his beautiful ES5 with a pair of shorts. And here we can see in this publicity shot of Blues Boy King, he is sporting his Gibson short scale Birdland guitar. In 1955, Gibson released the ES350T and Birdland with slimmer bodies, better specs and a shorter scale. The Birdland was endorsed by jazz players Billy Bird and Hank Garland, hence the name, and BB liked it. Its ebony fingerboard with the block pearl inlays was smart, and its shorter scale made it for complex jazz chording. Here's a great photo of BB King playing his Birdland in a hotel room in Chicago in 1956. One of the first guitars that BB King played when he went back to Gibson's was a Gibson L5 with P90 pickups. BB King's blonde L5, this guitar would have been made around 1954, and it featured a 17-inch blonde body. It had a multi-bound tortoiseshell pickguard and a flat plate tailpiece with the engraved L5 logo on it. At the end of 1953, the L5 was upgraded with a pair of Alnico pickups, featuring 6 adjustable magnets, but a few of the instruments were produced with regular P90s, or a mixed outfit just like the 1954 Les Paul Custom. These models were fitted with a Tune-o-matic bridge, but also they came with rosewood bridges. The L5 CES, or electric L5, was introduced in late 1951, when 31 Sunburst and 8 natural finish guitars were shipped from the Kalamazoo factory. So guys, if you thought Jimi Hendrix was the first guitar player to put a guitar behind his head, think again, because BB King in the early to mid 50s playing a gold top 1952 Gibson Les Paul Standard. 1952 was the first year of production for the Les Paul, and this model used a flimsy trapezoid tailpiece and a shallow neck angle which causes stability and playability issues. It featured a single cutaway, mahogany body, maple top, mahogany neck and a rosewood fingerboard. It had 2 single coil P90 pickups, Kluson Deluxe tuners and 4 control knobs, a white pickguard, bound fingerboard and a trapeze tailpiece. And here we can see BB King pictured on the album BB King Wales, which was released in 1959. And as you can see, he is playing an ES175. Unlike the top of the line L5 and Super 400, the ES175 had a laminated maple, not a solid carved spruce top. But this kept prices down and helped combat feedback. Okay guys, let's talk about BB King's famous 1959 ES-335. In this photo from 1963, we can see B.B. King at the Apollo Theatre in Harlem, New York, and he is with his ES-335. The guitar was actually custom ordered with an Argentine grey sunburst finish, a Bigsby vibrato and a Veritone switch. It also features Grover milk bottle rotomatic tuners and pearl dots to cover up the stock bar holes and dot inlays on the rosewood fingerboard. It also featured stereo on the truss rod cover, and it also had a crown headstock. This really is one of the most important guitars in B.B. King's history, because quite possibly the best album ever recorded was Live at the Regal, recorded on November the 21st, 1964 in Chicago. This guitar definitely melded elements of a 335 and a 345. Around this time he was also using a Gibson 345. B.B. King can also be seen with a Gibson ES-345 guitar. This guitar also featured the Veritone switch and came in a beautiful red finish. And this is B.B. King in the 1960s with an Gibson ES-330, and it features block markers and two dog-eared P90 pickups with a tobacco sunburst finish. And by 1967, B.B. King was now playing the Gibson 355, which was the top of the line semi-solid. It was a luxurious model that seemed to be the right high-end instrument for the guitarist considered the king of the blues. And he basically stayed with this model throughout the rest of his long career. And here we can see B.B. King and Eric Clapton jamming at the studio in 1967. B.B. King has a really cool ES-355 guitar with him. Gibson decided to mark its connection to B.B. King in 1969 by signing an endorsement deal with B.B. King, who was still a loyal 355 fan. The deal saw him pictured in many adverts and catalogues. For example, a striking early 70s ad profiled the man and the woman. In other words, B.B. King and Lucille, the King Gibson guitar. In the late 70s, Gibson decided that a signature model for B.B. King would be a good idea, and the R&D department at Gibson started work on it. B.B. King was featured on the cover of Gibson's Thin Electric Acoustic catalogue for 1975. Besides being affiliated with B.B. King, other guitar players of note such as Freddie King, Frank Zappa, Chuck Berry and Alex Lifeson also wielded the Gibson ES-355 TD-SV guitar, although it became synonymous with King thanks to his live performances. And this would actually prove to be the basis for the eventual B.B. King signature model by Gibson. The guitar included an ebony fingerboard, pearl block inlays, gold-plated hardware, Kinematic twin humbucking pickups with separate tone and volume controls for each pickup, a 3-position toggle switch to choose each pickup by itself or together in the middle position, and Veritone and stereo or mono output capability. The Veritone, besides offering different filtered frequency ranges, also offered one position that had no effect on the guitar sound. Huck Daniels, a local Las Vegas blues musician and a friend of B.B. King's, played with Mr. King in the mid-1970s, and he stated, "B.B. had 2 of the ES-55 TD-SV guitars when we were recording in the studio. Both of them were all black, and he would record with his main one and always kept the backup in its case on the chance something went wrong." Huck wasn't a fan of the later Lucille model and feels that King always got his best tone back when he played live and recorded with the ES-355, which had more of an open tone from its hollow wings and F-holes. On B.B. King's 1969 classic, The Thrill Is Gone, you can hear the honk of the Veritone's capabilities. And the first one that R&D boss Bruce Boland presented to B.B. King in 1978 was a fancy 355 with F-holes and a floral fingerboard markers, very similar to the Les Paul Artisan model. The tailpiece cover had a special message engraved in it. To B.B. King, an artist's music represents his sensitivity, growth and way of life. A legend in your own time, this guitar is a symbol of our growth together. With sincere appreciation, your friends at Gibson. B.B. King played this guitar for the next year or two, but by the summer of 1980, he'd switched to another new Gibson. This one was a prototype closer to the forthcoming signature models. Boland told B.B. during one planned meeting that the body would be without F-holes. The idea being that you could play louder without worrying about feedback, and also gave the guitar a sleek, distinctive look. Production versions finally appeared on the price list during 1981. The BB King Standard. Its list price was $1,389, and the BB King Custom was $1,789. Both had the sealed body without F-holes, like Gibson's earlier ES Artist, but otherwise they were built with the company's classic semi-solid innards, laminated maple top and back with a central maple block, and they had a 3-piece maple neck. Both models had cranked fold-out tuner winders, a TP6 fine-tuning tailpiece, a Tunematic mounted into sustain sister brass studs, and 2 patent applied for humbuckers. For humbuckers, they had stereo circuitry with 2 output jacks, requiring a couple of mono cables plugged into both for stereo use, or a single cable into the rear jack for mono. BB King had written out Lucille a few times, and Chuck Burge at Gibson redrew the best one for use as artwork on the headstock. The BB King Custom had gold-plated metalwork and ebony fingerboard with block markers, and in addition to the regular controls, it had a variotone. The Standard had chrome-plated metalwork, a rosewood board with dots, and regular controls. Both models were offered in ebony, black, or cherry. The Standard didn't last long. It was gone from the price list after 1983, but the Custom is still in the line today, although since 1986 it has been known appropriately as the BB King Lucille. Gibson actually dropped the ES355 in 1981, so the BB King model filled the gap. When Gibson's Memphis factory opened in 2000, the Lucille model was among its earliest runs, with Memphis taking over production from the regular Nashville factory. Around 2007, the headstock of Lucille gained a fancy BB King logo, topped by a crown. Through this period, it had no Gibson logo, which was reinstated in 2014. There have also been a few variations of Lucille, and these include a Blues Hawk-like Little Lucille, which was produced from 1999 until 2004, with a smallish body, F-hole cavities, and 2 noise-cancelling P90s. A couple more takes appeared, one with a fingerboard inlaid with BB King, and the other was a limited edition Super Lucille with King's signature on the pickguard, abalone block markers, and a sparkle finish. Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I'm going to be back really soon with some more guitar histories. Until then, take care and stay safe.